Hi guys, g'day, greetings, welcome to part 4 of my complete overview of my tarot and oracle deck collection. As you can see, I have the next decks sitting in front of me to be able to share with you. Now, if you've already checked out parts 1, 2 and 3, thank you so much, I really appreciate it. I hope you like the decks that I've shared and that you've gained some insight into the kind of decks that I have in my collection. If this is your first time coming to my channel and you're here at part 4, don't hesitate, if it interests you, to go back and check out parts 1, 2 and 3. And we do have more, or I do have more parts coming in the near future as I continue to show my decks to you and share them with you. Welcome to Finding Sanctuary. My name's Karen and I'm really looking forward to sharing more of my decks with you today. So the first deck I have to show you today is the Wisdom of the Trees Oracle, Inspirational Cards for Wisdom and Guidance by Jane Shruthers, I believe it's pronounced. Now this is a very beautiful box. I like this box. It's one of the few that I have that pull out in this manner. And I just love trees. So this is a Watkins publication. And I don't think it says on here what year this was, but I really like this box. So we'll take a quick look at the guidebook. Oops, cards are coming out. So the guidebook is in complete colour, which I do like. I enjoy it when it's in complete colour. It talks about the different trees and it's set up in different sections. So we have roots, which is being. We have trunk, which is healing. We have leaf, which is wisdom, and we have, I think there might be 2 more actually, flower, fruit and seed, which is power, and nope, that's the last one. So they're the sections that this oracle is set up into. And these are the cards. I love the back design. It is the leaf, which is very beautiful, and it's in the autumnal way, so it's just the skeletons of the leaf. Very beautiful. And these are the cards. So we have ginkgo, cedar of Lebanon, sugi, sugar maple, Indian bean, hornbeam, and sweet orange. Now, each of these cards has a different coloured border around them, which corresponds to which area in the guidebook they come from, which I find is really helpful when I'm using the cards because it helps me easily identify within the guidebook where the card is likely to be located for me to be able to get the information. Now, I absolutely love trees. They're something that I spend a lot of time with, living on 20 acres. I go outside and I spend time with my trees. I love photographing them, and I just love the feel and the energy that they give off. But when I got this deck, I actually struggled with understanding the messages that these trees were delivering. And I think that's because I didn't identify with the actual tree themselves. So a lot of these I've never heard of, or if I have heard of them, I've never had anything to deal with them. So learning what each tree meant and how that's being represented in the cards was certainly a learning curve for me, but I really do enjoy having this deck. The next deck I have is the Goddess Love Oracle by Wendy Andrew. It is a Rockpool publication. It's that lovely purple colour again. Very spiritual for me. I absolutely adore it. This is a guidebook. It's in full colour, which I'm pretty sure most of, if not all of Rockpool publications guidebooks are. So it has the beautiful card in colour. It gives you the message of the card, and then it gives you a goddess-inspired daily practice for each and every card, which is really great. Now this is the back of the cards. I do love it. It has a real wintry feel to it, as many of the cards in here do. This is what they look like. Now this is a deck that I tend to use on its own. I love to have the cards on my altar. I love using it for my self-care work. And I also enjoy pairing it for shadow work with other decks that I use. And I do use this deck, even though I do use it on its own and it has really strong and beautiful messages, I do use this deck quite often as a secondary deck for readings that I am doing, because the added information that it provides, I think, is very valuable. So definitely a beautiful deck. And I have another one of Wendy Andrews' decks because I do like them. And I'll show that one a little bit later to you. So next we have the Green Witch Oracle, Discover Real Secrets of Botanical Magic by Sherilyn Darcy. Again, a Rockpool publication. Really love the earthy colour of this. I think it definitely suits this deck. So here it says, these 44 cards allow you to draw upon both the magical and medicinal aspects of the garden. Ethnobotanical and plant folklore, historical facts are included in the guidebook, along with gardening advice and spells. Oracle meanings are completely aligned with the doctrine of signatures to enable this deck to be used as a complementary medicine modality tool. So Sherilyn Darcy is an environmentalist artist, flower therapist and teacher who has a lifelong connection with the spiritual and healing properties of plants. And this deck is absolutely beautiful. So as you can see, the back of the cards look like this. They have the symbols for the elements. And even though it's a very simple back of the cards, I really like it. The green does have some kind of shading and graduation in colour and fleck to it, which I find is very, very pretty. And the cards look like this, and they really, really appeal to me. So I've had a look at a lot of botanical decks, herb decks, and I'm not taken with the imagery of them, but this one just really sings to my heart. It just feels really beautiful, it feels really magical, and it really hits the spot in my eyes as to what it is that Sherilyn was trying to achieve. So each of the cards has an element. You can see the symbol down here for each one, which is lovely. And it's just a really, really beautiful deck. I love using it, and I've actually earmarked it to be a deck that I use more in 2023. So I'm looking forward to spending a whole month with this deck so that I can really get to strengthen the bond and the friendship that I've started to create with it. So what I have done is I have chosen 12 decks in my collection that I intend to work with for a month and just build on the foundation we already have and the relationship that we currently hold with each other. And this is one of those decks. Next, I have the Wandering Star Tarot by Kat Pierce. This is the mass market edition. I know that she did a Kickstarter edition. This is the back of the cards. Now, this is a Hay House publication, and I have to say, for Hay House, the quality of these cards is not what I expect and not up to standard. I hadn't had this deck very long, and I was already starting to see issues with the cards themselves. As you can see here, they've started to come away, and they just don't hold up like I'd really want them to. So that's a bit of a shame with this mass market deck, because Kat Pierce's work is phenomenal. So this is what the cards look like. I'm sure you've seen them before. A lot of people have this deck. It's a really beautiful deck. I find it great for advanced users as well as beginners. The fact that each card has the words inside it, rest, recovery, quiet, rest, recovery, is just really, really great, and an added dimension when you're learning to read the cards or you're reading them as just part of your normal practice. Destruction, enlightenment, release, destruction, enlightenment, release. They're in there. You can easily see them, but they don't take away from the actual deck and the images themselves. It's a very beautiful deck. It's one that I get a lot of really great readings from, and it is my preferred go-to deck until very recently when I acquired the Tarot of Oneness, and that happens to be the one that I go to more these days, but definitely a deck worth having in my collection. Oh, and this is a guidebook. It doesn't have any pictures of the cards, but it has the keywords here, and then it has the message. Next is the Dreamtime for Spiritual Guidance Oracle cards. These are by Mary Louise Bayliss. This is the limited edition deck. Now, I have done a full rundown of this deck if anybody is interested. So this is what the backs of the cards look like, and this is what the front of the cards look like. Now, I use this deck and I enjoy this deck. It's one of those that I get a lot of enjoyment out of, and then it just kind of doesn't hit the spot, and I put it away and I don't look at it for a while, and then I pull it out again and I get enjoyment out of it again. But it's a lovely deck. Miri has done some beautiful artwork in here, which I really enjoy, and the messages are just really lovely. And the guidebook here, as you can see, it's in colour and has the information next to it. So underneath each of the cards, it has a message, then it has a summary, a purpose, guidance, action, and positive and negative words associated with the card. Next, I have Runes for Modern Life, Ancient Divination cards for today's dilemmas. Now, this is illustrations by Camilla Perkins, and the text is by Teresa Cheng, I believe it's pronounced. Now, this is a very different deck to what I would normally have. And so this is the guidebook. It's very much in colour. It has a lot of information. Each of the cards represented a rune, and then the messages are here. It's a really interesting deck. I don't work with runes, so it was interesting to get the runes in the cards. And I have to say that I'm still really learning how to interpret these cards properly and how to find a way to incorporate them into my personal practices with my cards on a more regular basis. I do enjoy the artwork. This is the back of the cards. I do enjoy the artwork that is here. And I just need to find a way to make it fit better for me so that I can use it more. I do think that it's definitely going to be a deck that I use as a secondary deck along a reading. I don't think I will use it as a deck on its own for readings. That's just me. But I think that's how it's going to end up working in my collection more and my practices. So next, I want to show you the Self-Compassion deck, 50 Mindfulness Best Practices. Now, obviously, this isn't an Oracle or a Tarot deck, but I do consider it part of my collection. I use this in a very similar way that I use the Soul Seeker card deck. So the back of the cards look like this. It's pretty boring, to be really honest, and pretty repetitive. It doesn't appeal to me at all. But on the other side, we have... they're the cards about the author and different things. We have some cards where you can write your own, but here we have different things. So self-compassion, breathing. As you breathe in and out, see if you can allow yourself to enjoy the sensations of breathing. Let it be pleasant sensation and enjoy it as deeply as you can. Repeat for 5 breaths. So these are really good. So if I'm doing a reading around something that I'm struggling with and I'm really needing to show myself compassion, I'll pull one of these cards so that I can get an idea of how I can help myself. So usually if I'm really struggling and I'm trying to get guidance or spiritual support from the cards, I just need that extra level of support and different perspective. So by pulling one of these cards to go with a reading, it can really help me to put on a different lens, try a different activity to be able to understand the messages and deal with the messages that are often coming through. Because, yeah, if I'm in a really, really tricky space, then using these to help bring more compassion to myself and within a reading, I think is a really great way for me personally to use them. So the next ones I have are the Crystal Oracle, Guidance from the Heart of the Earth by Tony Carmine Salerno. This is a deck I've had for a really, really long time, and I have done a deep dive and compare this deck with the newer updated version of it. As you can see, This one came with 2 guidebooks. They are absolutely identical. There's nothing different about them at all. They are the same guidebook, but for some reason there was 2 of them in here. Now these cards have a really lovely energy to them, and I do like them. I have used them for many years, but ever since I got the newer version, which I'll show you later in one of the part series of my whole collection, these ones just don't kind of cut it for me anymore. And that's really sad to say, because I've had them for quite some time. They were my mother's before they were mine, so they've been in the family. I've used them, I've enjoyed them. I now have them as part of my collection, and they are very beautiful, but they're not as visually beautiful as the newer deck, and I think that's taken away from my experience with this one for me. When I tend to use a crystal deck, I go for the new one, which is a real shame. I'm hoping in time that I will learn to reconnect with this one, because we have a long history and we have quite a solid foundation that we've worked on with readings, and it would be really great to be able to connect back into that. Now this is my Numerology guidance cards by Michelle Buchanan. This I've had for quite some time. From memory, it's the early 2000s. Let me check and look. Nope, not that early. This says they were made in 2013, but I've still had them for quite some time. Again, it's that purple color. I really gravitate towards it. It's my favorite color. This is what the front of the cards look like. So they all have the same geometric shape with a number up the top and a word down the bottom, and they change in color that resonates with the hertz, I believe, of the number. I could be wrong about that, but I think that's what it is. So these are cards that I don't use enough of. I used to use them all the time as a secondary deck years ago when I was doing card readings. I used to love to be able to put the energy of the number into a reading and really see where that took me. But I don't tend to use them much these days. And I'm not really sure why. I think it's just because I've got so many decks. They don't pull me in as often as really they could. So maybe that's something that needs to change, but definitely a lovely deck and has a lot of great information linked with the messages. So this is the guidebook, and in here it tells you the information that relates to the card and the number, and at the end of every one it has an affirmation. So I used to take those affirmations when I use these cards and work with it for a period of time. Next, I have the Ostara Tarot. Now, this is created by Molly Applejohn, Eden Cook, Julia Airedale, and Krista Gibbard, and it is an absolutely stunning deck. I really, really love it. It was the artwork. How am I going to open this? It was the artwork that I liked, and I like the way this opens up. It was the artwork that really drew me into this deck. It's got a lovely guidebook. It's in full color. It gives upright and reverse meanings of the cards, which I really like. It's really lovely, and I know a lot of people have this deck, so I'm interested to learn what you do and don't like about it and how it works for you. I really love to hear how things fit for other people and how they might differ from my own experience. So I'll just turn these cards so they're all the one way. So this is a beautiful tarot deck. It's got the silver gilding on the edges. This is what the back looks like. As I said, totally reversible, which is fantastic. And these are what the cards look like. This is the World, and this is Judgment. And as you can see, they're very beautiful. So each of the artists created a number of the cards within. So it has four different artists creating the deck, and it's incredible how it marries so well together with the different artists doing their stuff. But at the same point, this is a deck that I personally, I love the individual cards and the symbology within them and the art style. But for me, it just doesn't gel right. And I can't really understand what it is, but for me it just doesn't gel right when I try to work with it. It just feels a little bit disjointed, which I know is so different to most people's experiences, but I can only speak from my own. So it is a deck that I love, I enjoy. I don't think I'd ever part with it, to be honest, but I really don't use it. I will use it more as an oracle rather than a tarot, just because I don't get the flow of the cards through the imagery when I use it as a tarot deck, which is, it's a real shame for me, but it's absolutely beautiful. So next I have the Sacred Cycles by Jill Ply and M. Dewey. This is a 50 card deck and guidebook. Now, the colouring of this deck is really lovely. Inside we have each of the cards. They're numbered, they have the message. And then these are what the cards look like themselves. All of the backs are the same. They are not reversible. But it's I do like the back of these cards. Yeah, I certainly, they're not my favourite, but I certainly, I do like them. So these are the front of the cards. So it's a very different kind of style to what I'm usually, what I usually like and what I usually work with. But I do enjoy it. I initially bought this so that I could use in my women's circles. I buy quite a few of my decks to be able to use in my women's circles. It gives me the opportunity to offer choice and diversity to the people who enjoy the women's circles and choose to attend. So I love having those options for them. And I'm very much about making sure that the decks that I do offer have a lot of richness to them. So this one certainly does. But it's not a deck that I use in my own practice for myself, really. But certainly a beautiful deck. And I just noticed that this, I don't know if you can actually see it. I don't think you can actually see it. But right down this card, there's actually a line. It's a slight fault in the card. I love it when I find things like that in my decks. It makes them unique to me. So this is the Spirical Tarot by Tracy Fisher. This is one I backed on Kickstarter, and I'm really glad that I did. I've enjoyed using this deck. So Tracy says, because a lot of people have asked me, is Spirical Tarot an actual spelling mistake? So Tracy says, I believe the spiral symbolizes our journey of psychological development. I picture a mountain with a path spiraling around and heading upward. A path goes around, and each time we circle around, we see the same view, but from a slightly higher perspective. The same is true for recovery from trauma. Initially, we're in the dark. We find ourselves struggling with the same issues over and over. As we use the tarot to spiral inward and in our search for clarity and healing, we have the opportunity to work with our issues in a slightly different way, from a slightly different angle. Each time they reappear, each turn of the spiral brings us closer to the light of our true self. So this is a trauma-inspired tarot, and I really like that. As you can see here, with each card, it tells you what the suit is, it tells you what the number is, and it gives you an upright and a reversed meaning. And then it gives you information on the card. And they're really lovely. So one thing that it does say in here, and I think it's important to be able to explain this to you, if I can find it. Where is it? Where are we? she does talk about what the name actually means. So I can't find it. If I can find it later, I will put it in here and find it. But she explains that she did find the word spherical in the Urban Dictionary, I think it was, and what it meant in that dictionary. But I can't actually find it in here, which is a bit of a shame, because it was quite interesting to be able to say what that was. Shuffling cards. Oh, it might be in here. Here it is. What does spherical mean? So she tells you about it's not an actual word in the English dictionary, and she goes on and starts telling you more and more. And she goes, I found the Urban Dictionary defines spiritual as our spiritual and physical natures being used simultaneously, which has been an essential component of my own recovery, and there it was. So that's what spiritual means in the Urban Dictionary. It's our spiritual and physical natures being used simultaneously. So a beautiful name that I think really speaks to this deck, and it is a beautiful deck. So the imagery in this deck, this is the back of the cards. As you can see, it is reversible, which I love. I really do love a reversible back. And this is what the cards themselves look like. So you have these figures. They don't have any gender. They don't have any facial features. You wouldn't know who they are. They're just a soul in a human body. And I love the fact that as they're portrayed throughout this deck, you can feel what is going on with them. There's a lot of emotion, a lot of feeling, and it's a really beautiful deck. So I'm really pleased that I sent it on Kickstarter. I only found it just as it was finishing, so I kind of jumped in and I backed it without reading too far. But when I actually read more into it, I was really pleased that I'd made that decision to do just that. So even though it is informed as a trauma deck to work with your trauma, I really enjoy it, and I use it quite regularly just in the everyday. So next I have my morning mantras, 52 affirmation cards to help harness the day by Lisa Messenger. Again, this is not a oracle or tarot deck, but I use it in the way that I would use my oracle or tarot decks. So the cards, they have messages on one side that kind of look like this, and then on the other side they have a musing and an affirmation. So it is a deck that when I'm shuffling, I'm working with, I don't look at it so that I'm not impacted by whatever it is that I can visually see at that point, but I will pull a card and then I will use it as a secondary deck with a reading. So this one says, the people who are crazy enough to think that they can change the world are the ones that do, Steve Jobs. And it says here, sometimes all we need to do is listen to our inner crazy. And the affirmation is, I am passionate about my goals, however crazy they might seem. So these messages pair really well with a lot of the decks that I use, especially if I'm working on things like self-care, self-love, self-compassion. I do a lot of work on that personally. I use my cards in that way repeatedly. That's one of the biggest things that I do use them for. I love to use these cards for meditation, contemplation, and I love to use them in journaling. So even though they're technically not an oracle, I do use them in a very similar way, and I do pair them with my oracle and tarot cards to be able to just get an extra depth and layer to a reading and a different viewpoint and perspective. I really like that. So next I have Oracle of the Unicorns, and this is another purple deck, Enter an Enchanted Realm of Magic and Miracles. So this is a Blue Angel deck, and it's by Cordelia Francesca Brabs. Now, I got this deck. It's very beautiful. I love the back of the cards. They're very beautiful. I got this deck, and I have to say that I've never used it. I've had it for a really, really long time. I love the images that are on it. I love the messages that it has. But the unicorn just doesn't appeal to me in the way that I thought it would. I really thought it would draw me in and it would be a powerful deck to work with. But it's one that I haven't used. I've flipped through, I've pulled a card when I initially got it, and then it's kind of sat on the shelf for quite some time, which is a real shame, because as we can see here, the imagery on these cards and the messages they give are truly beautiful. So I've earmarked this as another deck that I want to be able to spend some time with in 2023 and to try and build a relationship with. I want to be able to link in with the unicorn and see where it takes me, really. So I'm looking forward to that. So I've worked out which decks I'm going to use, the 12 decks, but I haven't actually worked out what order I'm going to do them in. So that would be my next challenge. So next we have Goddess Guidance Oracle cards by Doreen Virtue, a 44 card deck and guidebook. I actually have two of this deck. I don't know why I have two, but I've had two for a really long time. This again is a Hay House deck. It has the really good guidebook in black and white. So great information in there. It's a deck I've used for a really long time. It feels like home. It feels like a really trusted friend who will give me the message that I need without having to fluff anything up, which is what I like. It's a very beautiful deck. I've used it for a lot of years. I turn to it quite often, and it's comfortable. It really is. I like Doreen Virtue's decks, even though a lot of people have shied away from them in recent years. I definitely think that, for me personally, they've always added value, and they continue to do so. So I continue to use them until there comes a time when they may not fit with what I'm after. Then I will definitely look at it. But while they still provide the beautiful connection and service and relationship that they always have, they're going to be a trusted deck within my collection. So next we have Tarot to Go book and card set. Now this is a little tarot deck. This is the book here. It's in full color. It has, you know, basic information in it with the reverse meaning of each card. Now I love that this is so tiny and so portable. So this is illustrated by Mary Hanson Roberts, and it's a Hanson Roberts deck. I'm really upset that this was so tight that when I tried to get the cards out, I couldn't get them out without damaging the box, which is a real shame. But this deck is really beautiful. It's one that I can carry with me. I can take anywhere that I want to go. It's really tiny, and it just feels it feels really fun, to be honest. It's just a really fun deck. This is what the backs of it look like. They are totally reversible. And the fact that this is so tiny, I can take it anywhere. I can read tarot on the go. I just really, really love it. So this is what the cards look on the other side. And it is a deck that I do carry with me, and I do use. I only use it pretty much when I'm traveling. I don't use it when I'm at home, because I have so many other decks, and I love to be able to see the big pictures and a lot of detail. But I have a great relationship with this. It's a traveling relationship, but we have a great relationship, and I get some really great readings from it. And it feels like a lot of fun. So, a great little deck. Sometimes I wish some of the decks that I had did come in this size, because I would definitely buy them in a size like this so that I could take them with me as a, you know, treasured traveling companion and have them by my side for when I needed them. I really like the portability of this, and if more decks came in this size, I would definitely buy them, but I would still buy the original size deck too, because I do enjoy how big the decks come. But this is a beautiful little deck, and it comes like that when I go traveling, and when I'm at home it just sits in here. So next I have the Gita Wisdom from the, I think it's pronounced Bhagavad Gita. It's a set of 68 inspirational cards. Now, when I got these, I was really taken with the imagery, which is the main reason why I bought them. It doesn't come with a guidebook, but it comes with these beautiful cards. So they're just really lovely. There's just something about this style that appeals to me personally, and I was really taken with them. But one thing I didn't quite understand, and I was so taken by the artwork itself, that I didn't really understand what the cards were, to be honest. So when I actually got them home and then I was looking at them and went to use them, I realized that on the back of the cards they have these messages, and I'm going to be honest, I don't really understand them, and I struggle to be able to use these cards in my practices with the way I do things. So it does have, like this one here, it says success in yoga, and then on the back here it says success in yoga, chapter 2 verse 48. So it refers to the fact that an unparalleled collection of India's premier artists adorns 68 essential verses from the spiritual epic, the Bhagavad Gita. Unique illustrations illustrate these jewels of the Gita's wisdom. Profound, provocative, and enlightening. In India's ancient wisdom has never been more accessible or attractive than the Gita deck. And I agree, it's definitely very attractive. So obviously chapter 2 verse 48 refers to Bhagavad Gita. If I really hope I've pronounced it right, I probably haven't. So then it has information here. So I don't understand these two here, but here it says, be steadfast in yoga. The Oraja, perform your duty without attachment, remaining equal to success or failure. Such equanimity of mind is called yoga. So I really struggle with how to use these cards in my deck, but they're absolutely beautiful that I can't part with them. I just don't want to part with them. So what I have done in the time that I've had them is I tend to just pull the cards and use them for contemplation. So I'll pull the cards and I will contemplate or meditate on the picture that is here. Sometimes I'll put them on my altar because I think the picture is very beautiful and I want to be able to reflect on that. But that's the way I use the cards, which isn't the way that they are intended, and I'm probably missing out on a lot of depth and wisdom with this deck, but it's the only way that I can find that works for me. So I do apologize for my mispronunciation of different things because I know I've probably botched it, but yeah, it is definitely a beautiful deck. So the next deck that I have in my collection is Loving Words from Jesus, a Dorian Virtue deck. Now, I've said many times I have a lot of Dorian Virtue decks. Most of them are her angels or the different ones that she has. But this one was very different. When it came out, it was very much towards the end of her journey with making Oracle and Tarot cards. And I wasn't aware of that at the time. I just seen a shift in what she was doing and how she was doing it and the things that she was, putting out into the world, her creative ways. So this is the back of the card and these are the front of the cards. It doesn't come with a guidebook. But I found the imagery very beautiful. And because by this stage I had a number of decks in my collection and I'd started to collect decks, I thought this was a little bit different. And I was working with different people, so being able to have something that would resonate more with them was absolutely okay with me. So this is a very beautiful deck and it gives very beautiful readings. Obviously, it's a deck that a lot of people would never pick up and never use in their life, and I'm absolutely okay with that. But I love having it within my collection and having the opportunity to share it with others who may like to use it if that's what they gravitate towards more. So next I have a Rebecca Campbell deck, artwork by Danielle Knoll, Work Your Light Oracle cards. Now, as I've said about another Rebecca Campbell deck, I love these cards. I love what they look like. I'm not a lover of the way they've got this banding down the bottom with the message and the keywords. And even though I love this deck, I visually like the look of it, I just don't use it. It's a deck that stays in my collection and I don't pick up, I don't use, and it's really sad because it's a very beautiful deck. But I do feel that a lot of her cards are very similar within her decks. So I'm not sure, even though I've got I think 3 of her decks. I've at least got 2 of them. I'm not sure what it is, but yeah, it is a deck that I have. I did only pay $5 for it because I seen it on special for $5. So I thought, yep, I can have that. That's not a problem. And I purchased it, and it is in my collection. I have used it with others. A lot of people really gravitate towards it, but it's not a deck that appeals to me to use in my own practices at all, unfortunately. So next I have the Zen of Animals by Pamela Matthews. This is a Blue Angel deck. Now this is very beautiful. I really enjoy this deck. This is the guidebook, and it's quite big, easy to read, which fantastic. I'm sure you've heard me say that more than once. So it has a black and white picture of the card. It tells you about the card, and it has a message, and then it has a quote underneath. Really simple. And these are the cards. And I love doing energy readings with these cards to see what energy comes through for the day, the week, the month. They're a really great deck for using that. It's probably my preferred way of using this deck. I do use it on its own. I don't usually marry it up with other decks in readings, but I have done it on the really odd occasion. But it's really beautiful. It's just, yeah, it's a really beautiful deck. That doesn't get enough use in my life, but when I definitely do my raising vibrations and energy readings, it's a deck that comes out religiously. It's always one that calls to me. And next we have the Gaia Oracle, Guidance, Affirmations, Transformation by Tiny Carmine Soleno. This is a Blue Angel publication. And this is the back of the decks. Back of the card, sorry. Very beautiful. It's not reversible, but it is very beautiful. And this is the front of the cards. Now, Tony Carmine Soleno, his artwork is beautiful in my eyes. I have quite a few of his cards, and I really enjoy his style of art. So using these cards speaks to me, even though this is a newer deck of his, because I've had many of his for a really long time. The style of art just, it feels like home. It feels comfortable. It feels, yeah, it feels really welcoming, which I like. And funnily enough, I don't like borders on cards, but I really like it on this deck. I think it really suits, but I'm not sure if you can notice, each of the borders is a slightly different color, which is quite interesting. It's changed slightly to go with the actual card itself, but I actually think it really suits this particular deck, the borders that we have. So a really lovely, lovely deck. Get some really great readings from it. I do use this one quite often, and I love using it for daily card pulls. I love using it for 3-card readings, and yeah, really is beautiful. And the guidebook is big, black and white. It has the card, the message, and then an affirmation for each one. So next I have the Angel Tarot by Jane Wallace. This includes a full deck of 78 specially commissioned tarot cards and a 64-page illustrated book. And it opens like this. It's one of the few I've got that actually opens like this. Now, I don't like this. This must be a Llewellyn publication. No, Cheerio Books. I don't like this. It comes out every time I use it, but it is part of the way that it is, and I just put it straight back in. So I'll just move this out a little bit. Actually, I don't need to. I think you can still see. So we'll have a look at this. So this is the actual guidebook that comes with the cards. It's in full color. It has the message, the keywords, the meaning, and the angel message for each of the cards, which is really, really lovely. And these are what the cards look like. I haven't used this one. I have to be really honest. I bought it and I was going through an angel stage and I bought it and I absolutely love it, but I haven't actually used these cards at all, so they should all still be in the correct order. But we'll just have a flick through. This is the Fool, Angel of Innocence. This is the Wheel of Fortune, Angel of Destiny. The Devil, Angel of Freedom. Here we have the Two of Cups, Partnership. We have the Seven of Cups, Choices. And we have the Ten of Cups, which is Home. So they're very much like a pip style when it comes to the actual cards themselves. Two of Pentacles, Juggling. The Four of Pentacles, Control. Six of Pentacles, Generosity. And then we have the Two of Swords, Uncertainty. The Four of Swords, Healing. And we have the Ten of Swords, which is Endings. So it's a really beautiful deck. I love the way it has the angel wings behind each of the minor arcana cards. The Three of Wands, Preparation. Six of Wands, Recognition. And the Nine of Wands, Determination. So it's really beautiful. And as you can see as we work through it, not only does each of the different suits have a different colour. They're just really beautiful. So it's definitely a deck that I have earmarked to use more of and actually work with in 2023, because I haven't had that relationship with it, and I'd really love to be able to build that and be able to see where it takes me. So this never goes in properly. I told you I don't like this. So yeah, it's a deck that I've earmarked to be able to work with and see where it takes me and to develop that relationship with it. And I'm really looking forward to it. So that is the Angel Tarot by Jane Wallace. The next one I have is one I've seen very often with people, is the Green Witch Tarot by Anne Mora, and artwork by Kiri Ostegard Leonard. This is a very beautiful deck. The guidebook is big. It's got beautiful images of the cards. They're actually bigger than the cards themselves. Slightly bigger than the cards themselves, which is great. You can see a lot of depth and detail in it. And being black and white, I get a different sense of the card than I do when I look at it in colour. So I like having the really big image and being able to see both of them. Really great information in here and a really great guidebook. So this is a Llewellyn deck, and they did a really great guidebooks. So this is what the cards look like on the back. I'm sure you've seen them many times. It is a deck that a lot of people have and have gravitated towards in their collections. Really is a beautiful, beautiful back. And these are the front. I do enjoy them. There's a lot of detail in the different cards and the images. A lot going on. They read really well. They give me a lot of insight, and I do like using this deck. So it is one of the tarot decks that I will pull out and use on a regular basis, which is great. And the cards, I find the cards are a really great size. They're not too big for my little hands, which is an awesome bonus for me personally. And the one thing I don't like, and I can't remember who said it, but I remember watching a YouTube video on it, and I wish I could remember who it was I was watching. But this is such a beautiful colour, this, and then when you open it up, the guidebook is the blue colour, and it just feels like it's an error rather than a chosen design. But, you know, I can live with it. But yeah, really great guidebook. And the last one I wanted to show you today is the Modern Mystics Manifest Your Future book and affirmation deck. Now this is a really strange one. It comes with this book, which actually does come out. It's more like a workbook that you can use. And the cards are done in a really interesting way. And I can't use them like I normally would cards, so I have to really get an understanding of this book and how that works, and I'm still working my way through it, and I'm still trying to decide whether I like this affirmation deck or I don't. So I'll keep you posted on that one, guys. I'm really not sure where it fits into my practice, whether it's something that I would use in my life, or whether it's just something that's going to sit here. Now I can't get this back in. Give me a moment. I'm still trying to work out how it works for me. But anyway, this is by Benita French, and the art is by Pokel Harper. So this comes out of here like this. It's in a tuck box, and when we open it, the cards come out. Now, the interesting thing about these cards is they have a message, and then they have a word, and then the card number underneath. But what I noticed when I was using them is this is card 10 and this is card 11, and the picture and the information is identical other than the card number. And it's quite interesting because there is more than one of each card. So we have them, obviously we have some that are for love, some that are for income, some that are for purpose, some that are for health. What else do we have? We have more income ones, we have more love ones, more health ones. There must just be the 4 of them, I think, purpose in here. So the idea of these cards is that obviously you would shuffle them and you would draw them, but you do it in a particular way. So it states here, I'll just put them over here for a minute. It states here in here, which I think is quite interesting. So it's based on the law of attraction. And what happens is that how to use your affirmation cards. So what we do is I'll move this over so that you can see it while I'm reading it. So what you do is you shuffle the cards so you can connect with them, ask your guides, connect with your intuition, ask your guides to show you what you need to pay attention to, trust your guides to decide what you need to know, as they have been bringing good things into your life for many years. Make a statement. Make a statement to yourself such as, any card I draw is relevant to me. Divide the cards with the backs of the cards facing you. Divide and shuffle the cards evenly into 2 piles. They don't need to be exactly even. If you wish to place the piles on the table in front of you, trust your intuition. Pick which pile feels better. Ask the universe for help. Make your choice and put the other cards away. And then you would shuffle them again and you would repeat. Divide the remaining cards once more, trust your intuition, pick them, put the others away. And you would do it a 3rd time, so you would shuffle the smaller deck again, you would put them into 2 piles and you would choose one. And then you draw the cards. So the number of cards you draw is up to you. They suggest no more than 3 in a day, otherwise you can overload yourself with too many ideas, emotions and possible changes at once. The affirmation deck is split into 4 categories, which I spoke to you about before. So there is income, love, health and purpose. There are multiple cards of the same affirmation depending on its importance inside the deck. This means that if you decide to give yourself a 3-card affirmation reading, there is a chance that you may draw 3 cards from different categories. You may draw 2 cards from the same category. You may draw 3 cards that are exactly the same. If you draw 3 cards each from different categories, take note whether there is a theme to the affirmations. If you draw cards that are exactly the same, it's a strong message from your guides that you need to pay attention to a particular affirmation. For example, the affirmation, I drink water more often, may come up 3 times in your reading. Along with this affirmation, it highlights that the health category is very important for you at this time. So it's really interesting how we use these cards. So this is the back of them, and as I just read to you, it has purpose cards, it has, where are they? It has income cards, it has health cards, and it has love cards. So basically it's really interesting the way that it works. So I will give you a rundown on that at some other point, and we will do a reading in the manner it says and see how it works out. But yeah, it's an interesting deck. It has that different twist to it, which I think makes it interesting, but I'm trying to work out how I can marry that up with some of the other decks that I have so that I can enhance my self-care practices and the way that I use my cards in my everyday. So there you have it, guys. There's a look at all of the decks that I had here for part 4. I hope you've enjoyed it and that you've found things that you've liked. You may have been able to see things that you have in your own collection. You may have resonated with some of the things that I've said, or you may have a completely different opinion, and I'd really love to hear them if you have the opportunity to share. So please take the time and yeah, like, comment, tell me where you're at, what you've got, what you liked, what you didn't like, and thanks for stopping by, and I hope to see you soon when we look at part 5 of my collection. Thanks, guys. Bye.